netbook is? How many of you don't know what a netbook is? Okay, well, that's where the next talk will start as soon as he... Who's this Bumgarner person? There he is. I was wondering why he wasn't headed towards the stage. Somebody give him a schedule. No, just never mind. It's too late for that now. I had something pithy stored up to say, but I've forgotten what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good. Otherwise, we have no way of getting it onto the...
You got it electronically done.
Yeah, it's going to be recorded.
Okay, great. All right. This is not a netbook.
Okay.
It's a MacBook. And I do need an adapter to get to your VGA output here.
Why don't you vamp while I sign in?
Okay, here. Well, the adapter is down here.
Okay.
Someplace. There it is.
I'm glad you brought one because I have seen talks where there wasn't one of these, and it was tedious at best.
Yeah. Well, you got to get rid of, if you teach school, the dry markers, the keys, and so on. Okay, here we go. Okay, as many of you know, I'm John Bumgarner. And I've been around in the fourth quarter for a while. When did we start, Chuck? I went to work for you in 1977, 32 years ago, about that. Yeah. Sorry? Long days ago. Okay. This, on the other hand, is a netbook. And I'm not particularly a fan of PCs in particular. I'm a Mac guy, but when you're traveling and you want basic computer capability and you don't have the money or the space that you don't want to lug around. I mean, the MacBook's a great little computer, but on the other hand, it is heavy. It is bulky. You have all that stuff. So we went to Best Buy and we bought a netbook. And it's a PC. It runs XP. It's got a gig of memory, a gigahertz Atom processor in it. It has a 160 gig drive, 1024 by 600 display, not quite big enough vertically, but I don't know what the reason for that is. And my wife's large purse holds it very nicely. So we use this everywhere on a recent trip to Europe to get reservations, cruise the debt. She likes to play cards online, that kind of stuff. So it was very, very handy. But I didn't really realize that inadvertently I had found a computer which was very flexible. For instance, I started looking around on the net, and yep, sure enough, there's guys that run Mac OS on this, because it's an Intel processor. That's an Intel processor. There's no fundamental reason why you can't do that. You can run Linux on it. You can run whatever you darn well please. Okay, so that set my sort of mind to working here a little bit. And I thought, well, why not run a native Forth on it? No operating system, no Windows, no nothing, just plain native Forth. The reason is I've been spoiled in my lifetime. The first spoiling came with Chuck when he was able, when we were working with a PDP 1160 at Cedars-Sinai. Prior to that, just a couple of months prior to that, I'd worked with an HP 3000, and we built a driver to operate a microdensitometer scanner. And it took us a few months to get the driver going correctly and run the microdensitometer scanner. Well, I thought basically this was the way the world worked, because I didn't really know anything about Forth at that time. So I have to relate a little personal experience. So I went to work for Forth Incorporated because I could see possibilities with Forth, and Chuck and I were at Cedars. The PDP 1160 had just been installed. We got the Unibus and all that stuff plugged in. We plugged in a tape drive to the thing. Oh yeah, and Chuck, in order to get forth into the 1160, I believe, Chuck, you blew it in through the busy bit on the thing. Right, he had a little PDP 11. What was it in a suitcase? LSI 11 in a suitcase with a drive in another suitcase. So he was the computer enhanced programmer. He took that thing and hooked it up to the 1160 on the busy bit and blew a copy of forth into the 1160 by entering a little hand program on the 760 that would take and write stuff in memory. So, okay, so you really booted up from the word go. That impressed me on one hand. And the other thing was, there was this tape drive on it, and I thought, well, we'll have to write a driver for the tape drive. And Chuck looked at the tape drive, typed a couple lines. He looked at the tape drive again and typed another line, and it rewound. Where have I been in the last couple of months writing one for HP 3000? You know, I mean, if writing and controlling machinery can be this easy, anyway, so that was my personal experience with running native forth without anything on it, my first one. So I worked for Forth Incorporated for a year. Then I went back and I worked on a couple of startup companies with Forth. Remember, Bob? Forward Technology, native Forth. At Forward Technology, we built the very first Sun computers. Unfortunately, we didn't have a marketing team to take advantage of it. Anyway, but it was native Forth. It was very nice. Terry Holmes, who I think will be here a little later, built a Forth called T-Forth, which downloaded from ROM into RAM and ran on a 68,000. And it was a native system, and it was very nice. And so here I go, off and on. And then I went to work for Apple. This was several years later. This was back in 2000. At that time, the PowerPC processors, if you hold down the O and the F and the control key and you boot it up, it comes up in native Forth. You can do anything you want with a Mac at that point. No OS at all. And in fact, that was the boot language of the PowerPC Macs. All right, enough of that. The other experience I had was some years ago I taught Forth programming at Berkeley Extension over here in Menlo Park and in Sunnyvale. And at that time, there was a little computer that was available. Not a lot of people had personal computers. This was back in the about 1985, 84 time frame. Personal computers were popular, but not everybody had one, and I wanted everybody to have at least one common Forth language that I could use. So the Jupiter Ace came out. Does anybody remember what the Jupiter Ace is? Okay. Well, it turns out some people have been busy, and there's a Jupiter Ace emulator for the Mac, which is kind of nice. Is this thing displaying on that? Oh, cool. No, I don't think I really want to go to that. Oh, and we've gone to weird resolutions. All right, what the heck? Let us... That's 186,000 miles per was for an answer to somebody's question. Okay, there's the download. If you want to, I can describe this later, but homepage, mac.com, blah, blah, blah. Sharing, download the Jupiter Ace emulator. Okay, so I did that. And let's see. We're getting my... Wait till you see my desktop. It's like everybody else. It's even worse now because it's not in high resolution, right? It's terrible. Where can I find this?
High resolution. Your brain isn't that organized.
What brain? Oh, heavens to Murgatroyd here. Somewhere buried in here is supposedly a disk drive. Here. Let's pick the right. Yes. NB Fourth Talk.cwk. I actually had some papers about this. Now you can't see what I've got. Haha. There we go. and applications, and Mace, Mac Ace, it's called. Now let's see if it works with this thing. Okay, decide you're on TV here. Aha, perfect. Okay, so what you see here is a kind of a transparent Jupiter Ace screen. I don't know how well it comes across, but there's a picture of the front of the Jupiter Ace, and down here we have a cursor, and if you hit the carriage return, you get some OKs up there. That's good. That's fine. Okay, so here we have a little computer. It was only about this big and about that high, running a Z80 with a built-in ROM for doing Forth. And it's a Forth that I could actually teach people how to use Forth. In fact, one student, bless his soul, actually programmed a Turing machine with the tape drives animated on this thing. And so, thusly proving that you can do anything in Forth, right? Okay, so if you want to do a definition.
Is it still running?
Probably, because it was slow. Oh, all right. No, we're talking about poor old Turing. Poor guy.
You solved the halting problem.
Halting? In the Turing machine?
Your student solved the halting problem. Never mind.
Never mind, it's a joke. Okay, here's the thing. So let's start out with the definition I'll call QQ. QQQ, okay. How about 0 do I dot loop? All right, it compiles. There we are. And if we feed in 100 QQQ, it executes. So there we go. It's nice. It works fast. It's as fast as the Z80 processor in there. It's not emulating anything. Of course, the ACE itself is being emulated here, but the nice part about this one is that you can say C, no, not C, what is it? Edit, that's right. It's been a little while since I've run this puppy. EDIT, edit, QQQ. Got to put a space in there. Boink. There we go. And it comes back with the source code, like that. And then you can use your cursor keys and run around and change things, recompile it, and it could be part of another word and so on. It was a very nice Forth system that way because you didn't really need to have an editor or anything. Another one of the joys of having a really nice Forth system running native, as it were. And the ACE had a lot of nice little features for such a small computer. Okay, so that's it as far as the demos go. The Mac Ace is easy to find with Google if anybody wants to. And there's a bunch of emulators that work on a PC. I have 3 different ones installed here for the Jupiter Ace. They all have shortcomings. They're nothing at all as sophisticated as this particular one, which basically duplicates exactly what you saw on the Jupiter Ace screen. Okay, so my thesis is this. Okay, guys, I know it would be some work. We have lots of PC Forths around there. Terry Holmes, which I'm hoping he comes, wrote a particularly good one. Has anybody heard of the Canon Cat? Yeah, well, so did I. I worked for 7 years for Information Appliance. Out of my car, I have a couple of cats and a couple of Swifts. And if anybody wants to see what they look like. The Cat was complete Forth machine, running native, and Terry Holmes wrote the fundamental Forth, which is a tokenized, 2 different size tokens, 8 and 16-bit tokens, so that you could punch holes in the token table and redirect anything you wanted to a new word. It would take a text string and recompile it. It will decompile it. It would disassemble it. It was just about everything you wanted to do. It had drivers for the modem. It had drivers for the graphics. It had graphic words. It had a lot of stuff in there. So if one were to build a 68,000 emulator, one could probably migrate the CAT software, which still exists, onto a new machine. Yes, sir?
Under Linux, there's QEMU as an emulator. targets that it has is a 68,000 target.
Yeah.
In essence, under Linux, you'll have this machine, the 68,000 machine that's being emulated, which then probably could port this cat port.
You could, and in fact, the entire CAT ensemble of software, which was not trivial, because, for instance, we had spreadsheets in textual context in it. You could build tables of stuff. You could change one value, it would recompute the whole thing. It was quite sophisticated. We'd have to do one thing more in hardware. You need a pair of leap keys on it. They're called leap keys. You press a leap key down and start typing on the keyboard. It would search either forwards for the right key or backwards in text for those things on a, like they were saying with yours, on a character by character basis. So if you pressed the leap key down, hit A, it would go to the first A. If you hit B, AB, and so on. And that turns out to be an exceedingly smooth way to edit text. In fact, somebody who's facile with a cat can edit text. You cannot tell what he's doing if you look over his shoulder. It just goes like the wind. It is so much faster than a mouse or Kucher keys or anything like that. So, with all that background, why shouldn't I think about this? Why shouldn't I think about we could have a cheap $300 machine with adequate actual hardware resources if we only were able to port some kind of forth, complete with basically what amounts to an operating system. Now, what we would need would be some of the additional goodies that have come along since the 20 years that information appliance died. For instance, Wi-Fi didn't exist back then. The fastest modem we had was 1200 baud, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I know, you're laughing. Nice to see you here. And so we have an opportunity to really make a smooth thing. $300, and oh, I forgot one of the things that's really nice about the netbook. SD card. It's an SD card.
Oh, SD, right.
It's a RAM chip, or ROM chip, whatever you want to call it, flash chip that goes right in the side here and hooks up, so you could cram the whole thing into that and use your disk for data. Yes, sir.
Chuck did a native port for PC. That's an Intel chipset, right?
Oh, I don't. What's the Atom like? I mean, I know the name, but is it an 8086 class processor? 32-bit 8086 with the usual problems the 8086 had. Okay.
I was wondering if that would fit the guy's color for
Yeah, one of the things that has absolutely blown me away again was Chuck. I haven't worked with him at all on this thing with his ColorForth, and back, you're still using it to design your chips, right? Yeah, okay. Is it still a 386? Oh, so you're up in the Pentium world or something like that these days? Okay, so running a yeah, but still, the point is it's running native in some copious amount of memory that this PC has.
the barrier in the notebook is hassling with the 3 flavors of USB code.
You do need drivers for USB. You need drivers for the screwy display that's on the thing, and so on and so forth. So there is driver work to do. I agree about that completely. But once the driver work is done, you can certainly access it. You could have, I would like to be able to plug a memory stick in and have it be accessible to Forth as a memory stick with a block structure or whatever kind of file system you guys like to deal with. That would be very nice. I'm not saying that it won't be trivial port, but one of the things we do have is we have, as a resource, all of the Canon CAT software. That's a very nice word processor, a very nice database management system, and a very nice spreadsheet system, plus communications, all nicely thought out and actually working. So there's that. That's all in Forth. We need the drivers for other things. We need to think up ways to deal with USB and stuff. We need to think up ways to deal with Wi-Fi. And what would we do about a browser? I don't think anybody would like to live in the world without a browser here. Yes, sir.
Well, there is
Are these open source?
It is
I
open
bet.
source, and I have run it on i386 architecture.
Which means some of the tools are laying around right there for us.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
All the things you're talking about, the drivers and the TCPI mistake Wi-Fi, it's basically the kernel of the operating system. So you take the Linux kernel, all the test stuff, and that's it. For example, Google, they built their own operating system in like 7 seconds, something like this. They just took the Ubuntu or Debian, just basic Linux, and they used the kernel instead of PEX.
Right. So the tools are out there to be able to adapt, call from forth, do all of these things that we need to do. I don't think anybody needs to write anything basically from scratch, but we'll have to interface things. But, okay. You pay for it. Yes, John?
Okay, is this that version of network that uses a semiconductor instead of a hard drive?
No, this has both. This has the SD card. This is made by ASUS, and it's called the EEPC, okay? It happens to be a particularly hot topic to be hacked on the net and putting things. And there are versions of this that have just nothing but solid state memory. No, so you basically got what amounts to a MacBook Air, you know, for $300 instead of $1,500 or something, whatever they cost. And it's also the right size. I don't know why Apple isn't making one of these things. I sure wish they were, because they would have nice industrial. This isn't a bad industrial design, by the way. ASUS did a nice job on the package and the opening and all the ports and everything. It seems to be a pretty nice little box. Huh? Open it up? Sure. So it's you know, it's got all the usual stuff. It's got a lot of function keys. The keyboard is 80% the size. You hardly notice the difference in typing. It doesn't bother me. Of course, not a really fast touch typist. It's got a very nice trackpad and a right and left, you know, button on this thing. So, and it has, this one sports a bit of the expanded and contracted stuff, you know, the finger stuff. What do they call it? Touch? Yeah. Multi-touch keypad. So hardware-wise, it's not, you know, it's got an awful lot going for it. So all we need to do is have some software. That would be nice. I mean, XP is kind of whatever XP is here, and so it does work. It boots up. I guess I could plug this into the screen, couldn't I? Directly. Don't need an adapter.
While you're doing that,
Yes, sir.
you can answer a question. Some years ago, Ting was trying to have a fourth ROM for the motherboard.
Uh-huh.
You're taking over after the boot process is
Right.
completed, all the hardware is issued.
Exactly.
How do you talk to the hardware? Is it all well documented? Interfaces to the
Yeah, it's
board,
pretty.
the screen?
There's a lot of data out in the world on the net about this particular gadget. So what you need to do is you need to know, you know, the Intel's got the I/O port, and you know where the bits are and all that kind of stuff. The hardware, the chips, all of the stuff's pretty well documented.
Do you have to write your own USB, or is there a USB?
Well, as they were saying back there are hunks of software out there that people have written.
Like I said, ECOS does have a USB driver, and also has a TCP stack. That's all this nice stuff.
Yeah, does it have the TCP/IP stack that at the lowest level talks to this particular piece of hardware?
I believe so.
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know what I've never plugged this thing into it.
Can't a function key sequence to get it to spit out the.
If somebody knows XP better than I do here. Anyway, as you can see on this screen, it's up. It's got its cute little screen. It's nice, high resolution. The only problem is it's not 768, it's 600. You can squeeze it down a little bit, but with the multi-touch. But there's some incantation, I guess, to get it to work with the USB port. Would this be it?
It's a VGA port.
Yeah, CRT only?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, okay, CRT only. That ought to work. Bingo.
CRT, what's that?
That's a cathode ray tube for those cathode rays. So there you go. So, see, it looks like my other desktop. So it works pretty good. So you can have it both. Perfect. Whoop. There we go. All right. So it's played with the resolution a little bit. Is it trying to size it? Is a projector smart?
Yeah, it's too smart.
Oh.
It's too smart for its own good.
John?
Sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yes, the Canon CAD software is copyright protected. It's available, so is it possible just
Which are?
Canon CAD? So,
Oh, no. The Canon CAD is so dead it isn't funny. Okay. The company went bust 20 years ago. Okay. In fact, almost exactly 20 years ago. It was right after the earthquake of '89, and I think the earthquake of '89 was precipitated by the loss. No, never mind. Anyway, Jeff Raskin was the primary driver behind that. He's dead. He has moved on in the world of software. He has his family is carrying on some of his ideas in software, but as far as I can tell, the Canon CAT stuff is way out in the public domain now. There, oh yeah, no. There's an active group. Go to Google. There's a Google group for Canon CATs. Okay, people are fiddling with it. I've got half a dozen cats myself. If somebody wants to get one from me, that would be wonderful. I would be happy. I even have a cat development machine. Okay, and I've given an awful lot of stuff to the museum down in Mountain View. Some of the old computers that we had, the preliminary ones, and so on. Yes, John.
Yeah, you seem like you have a homepage, .mac.com, and I couldn't get the rest of it up in Slack.
No, I don't have a bank account,
Oh, I see.
surprisingly enough.
Yeah. I
costs
saw
one.
that come up earlier. I saw you.
Oh, I do have a home page, but it's for a business implicit course.
Okay, wait, that's not fair.
No, it's a business thing. Anyway, you can see that it looks pretty darn nice. It runs solitaire very well when I'm bored, but and there's a fourth somewhere on here for it. Right here, I was playing with some ideas for one-on-one. So I wrote some fourth code just to play with the ideas. So there's that one. So it's pretty nice. I mean, I don't care for Windows much, mostly because I loathe the business practices that Microsoft does, but yeah, but it does work, and any port in a storm, right? So when you're somewhere in a hotel in Europe and you want to be able to make reservations for the next place, and you don't want to carry around the MacBook, which is a nice processor, and you can't afford a MacBook Air, they're too big anyway. This thing is awfully nice. Okay, so that's it, basically, for me. Any more questions? Because we do have, yes, sir.
Let me just mention this to you. Truly want a dedicated fourth computer. You put fourth on the hard drive. Because then you can't use it for anything else. That is an absolute endorsement.
You make the hard drive empty and you put fourth in the SD card so that it boots like that.
Always put Windows on the hard drive.
No. All right, just get rid of the hard drive. There's versions of this thing that have the same basic characteristics, but they have nothing but solid state memory. Yes, sir.
Statement of question first. What is your experience in the battery life of your?
Excellent. This thing runs for about 3 hours or so with a little battery, and they sell a big one with it. So you can buy another battery for it. And
The statement that I want to make is you may want to look into Boehlin.
Who?
Boehlin, it's Linux or mobile devices.
Well, but see, where we are and back in Linux land again. And to tell you the truth, for the last, how long has it been, Chuck? Okay, 32 years. I loathe operating systems in general. I may be a Mac man, but So that's it. I beat the thing. Wonderful. Thank you all. Now, yeah, why don't I take the next one? Okay. Let me